One of the biggest joys of being a mixed martial arts fan is seeing some of our favorite athletes succeed, not only in the octagon, but in life in general. It's no secret that a number of MMA fighters come from very modest beginnings. The men and women who compete in the sport have dedicated their entire lives to the craft of fighting in hopes of getting into prestigious leagues. The leading MMA promotion in the world is the UFC, and those who have talent enough to get in are given the opportunity of a lifetime. Today we are looking at some of the biggest UFC superstars who were able to conquer poverty as a result of their success in the octagon. On that note, let's take a look at 5 successful UFC fighters who grew up poor. Anderson Silva. Anderson Silva will forever be remembered as one of the most iconic octagon warriors, but before he became the legendary Spider, Silva struggled with poverty as a kid. Living with 3 siblings in Sao Paulo, Silva's family was apparently too broke to keep the family together, and his parents had to send young Anderson to live with his uncle and aunt. What Silva lacked in material wealth, he made up for in determination and perseverance. At the age of 12, Silva started dedicating himself to martial arts, training in Taekwondo, Capoeira, and Muay Thai. In 1997, Silva joined the family's shoot boxing academy and officially started his MMA journey. After experiencing some ups and downs at the beginning of his professional career, Silva finally made it to the big leagues in 2006. The rest is history, of course. Silva went on to become the most dominant UFC middleweight champion of all time. Today, the Brazilian is reported to have a net worth of $8 million after going on a fruitful run of 14 years inside the octagon. Jose Aldo. To say Jose Aldo had a tough childhood is an extreme understatement. Born in a slum in Manaus in Brazil, Aldo had to overcome destitution to become what he is today. Aldo always had the aptitude to become a fighter, but since he didn't have much as a young man, he apparently relied on charity to pay for his mixed martial arts training. As a teenager, Aldo decided to take his training to the next level by joining the famed Nova União gym in Rio. But since Aldo couldn't afford a plane ticket, he had to work double shifts in construction to save up money and get himself to Rio. Aldo's hard work paid off in a big way, as he would go on to dominate the local MMA scene in Brazil in the early 2000s. Aldo found his way to WEC in 2008, and in 2011, he finally made it to the world-renowned octagon after the UFC's merger with WEC. Aldo dominated the UFC's featherweight division for several years and is still a force to be reckoned with in the bantamweight division today. Throughout his career, Aldo reportedly made north of $5 million and is presently collecting checks as one of the UFC's most reliable veterans. Ronda Rousey. Ronda Rousey had a rough upbringing after she lost her father at a very young age. Growing up, she followed in the footsteps of her mom, Anne Maria DeMars, who was the first American to win the World Judo Championship. Despite being introduced to martial arts at an early age, success didn't come easy for Rousey. After turning 21, she worked multiple part-time jobs as a bouncer, bartender, and cocktail waitress to earn a living. The lowest point of Rousey's career was at the beginning of her pro MMA career. At that point, the future UFC superstar was living out of her car before moving into a tiny 12x12 studio apartment. Fortunately, things started looking up when Rousey made her way to Strikeforce and captured the promotion's bantamweight title. Emerging as one of the biggest stars in Strikeforce, Rousey caught the attention of UFC president Dana White. Needless to say, White was all in on the Rousey hype train. White even went against his own code and started a women's division in the UFC, despite previously believing that the octagon was no place for a woman. Years later, Rousey blossomed into one of the biggest stars, not only in the UFC, but in sports, period. After venturing into Hollywood and eventually into professional wrestling, Rousey reportedly has a net worth of $13 million today. Conor McGregor. Conor McGregor has been the image of wealth and luxury over the past few years. With an estimated net worth of $22 million, the notorious Irishman is the single richest cage fighter in UFC history and the highest paid athlete of 2021. However, McGregor's life wasn't always glamorous. Before the mansions and luxury cars and Rolex watches, McGregor revealed that he was once a penniless young man in Crumlin who had lived off welfare. But that all changed when McGregor found MMA and started dominating the local scene and eventually the European circuit. In 2013, McGregor collected his last welfare check as he finally earned a spot in the UFC roster. The Notorious One never looked back as he would go to take the UFC by storm and take his place among the greats. Francis Ngannou. Francis Ngannou is the baddest man on the planet for a couple of reasons. The first, of course, is because he can knock out any person in the world with one punch. The other is because he survived immense struggles with extreme poverty as a child. Barely able to afford food, Ngannou started working in the sand mine at 12 years old. He soon started dreaming of becoming a boxer in order to feed his family and ultimately saving them from a terrible situation. In pursuit of his dream, Ngannou traveled to Morocco and then entered Spain illegally before finally finding his way to Paris. Not being able to afford a place to stay, Ngannou slept on the streets and found a gym that would train him for free. Ngannou soon met coaches Didier Carmont and Fernand Lopez, who helped him kickstart his MMA career. In 2015, the UFC came knocking on Ngannou's door and his journey to superstardom would begin. After years of ups and downs in the octagon, Ngannou finally reached the promised land at UFC 260 when he defeated Stipe Miocic to capture the heavyweight title. Not only did Ngannou go home with the belt that day, but he also overcame poverty once and for all as he also became a millionaire.